Good afternoon, everyone. This is well, maybe a repair video, kind of a repair video. I acquired these GSM walkie-talkies for free because the guy at the store, before me had tried them out and the charger didn't work. And only one of them had a battery and he passed them up, so I think the guy at the store figured they were not working and just gave them to me, which was fine by me because I was pretty sure they were working. First I flipped one of these on, the other one I think, and it turned on briefly before the surface charge on the battery ran out. And also I knew by a quick look, and also by having looked at these things before, that they took standard AAAs as well as the battery pack. So I knew that even if the battery pack didn't work and it wasn't there, they still worked. There was one battery pack with them, this one, and this is the one that had enough surface charge to charge it. But as you can see, the battery pack is fine. I've been able to charge it. Because there are two means of charging these. One is with the charging stand, and the other one is through a mini USB cable at the bottom. It will not charge standard nickel metal hydrides, although I suspect I could convince it to do so by the way they're wired, but that's probably not worth the effort. But it works, and you could always put alkalines or rechargeables in them. It assumes any rechargeables are alkaline, so the battery life indicator is not accurate with nickel metal hydrides, right? Just to show you how the charging works, the charging goes through the back of the charger goes through the back of the battery compartment and hits two lugs on the back of the battery. What's interesting about the battery is that the internal connection between the three cells, right, it's three, AA size nickel metal hydride cells in here, bypasses going through these terminals here. So, as I said, my guess is you could make it charge them by putting some tape over that and running one's own wire, across. To not use that because I'm sure that's how it's sensing whether it's got a battery pack or whether it's got a what it thinks are alkalines in there. That's very clever, by the way of doing it. Okay, so that's the radios. Nothing to do, they work perfectly. We'll put them aside. So here we have the charger. Oh, I've also got the belt clips for them, which is nice. So we got the charger. So I'm going to plug in the charger and show you what the behavior of the charger is. Let me remind myself that I've got the correct radio here that has, yes, the battery in it, so we can try it out with that. And I'll try to, I'll put it here in the frame and try to make the frame nice. And then I'll show you what I think is going on. So let me pause, plug in this power supply, and we'll take it from there. I have the power supply. I have the charging stand, which weighs nothing. I think there's very little electronics in here. We might have a look inside that, assuming I have a screwdriver for it. And it's got a DC 9-volt barrel jack like that. Okay, so let's put in the radio and see what happens. Nothing. Nothing at all. Okay. Now let's have a look at the power supply a little bit more closely. And now we have the power supply, and I'm going to zoom in on this so that you can look at it. And you'll notice that it says there, it says 5 volts, 2.5 amps, which is pretty spicy. That's the wrong power supply. So we know why it won't charge, right? It's got the improper voltage on it. And I just happen to have a 9-volt USB step-up thing, which I'm going to use in a second. But I want to show you something about this power supply here, because before I noticed that it had the wrong voltage on it, I noticed something else about it. So let me get a multimeter. And there's multimeter. I'll plug the leads in. Normally I'm a little more organized than this. Maybe. I convinced myself. Okay. voltage, DC volts. So remember, it's center positive, so we'll put the negative on the outside of the barrel jack, center positive. Well, that voltage is bouncing around a little bit, isn't it? Well, that's interesting. I wonder if we put a load on it. But I can't think of a good load to put on it right now, whether that would help. But that's quite interesting, which then, please, you know, what does that look like? We've got this. I don't own a real oscilloscope, but I do own one of these kit things that I built. What is this? I can't remember what these are called. Yeah, I can't see the name of it. These are, you know, you can get these kits for $10 or $15 off of eBay from those sorts of usual suspects. I built this a few years ago, and I got the little case for it because I actually kind of enjoyed playing with it. But we'll see if it can tell us anything interesting about... Oh, that power bank doesn't have enough power for that. Just a moment. Okay, let me get the microphone back here. I've got a bigger power bank. So there we have that booted. We have this. I want to get a little piece of wire of some sort. What have we got sitting around here? Oh, this will work. Okay, this is an Apple SD card removal tool. Always a useful thing to have sitting around. Okay. I have no idea how this little oscilloscope-like device is set up, but you'll notice that if I put my fingers on, we get something anyway. I'm just curious as to what we see. So this doesn't, let's just change the, all right, let me remember how we running. Okay, that's hold. Right, that's reset. Sorry, I'm having to remember DSO one. All right, so okay, so let's put it on DC for the start. Let's, all right, well now we're getting, okay. One volt. Okay, so we need to change the time base on this. And if I remember how to do that. There we go. Oh, no, we want to go. And can we move the trigger? I'll try to remember that. There we go. Oh, that's the center. That's not the trigger. I'll move that down a bit just to, so we can see things a bit better. This is what happens when you don't use something for a long time. And as usual, it's not working very well on that. But you can see that it's spiking up, and it's spiking up by, you know, about half a volt. Now the question is, if you put a load on it, would it work better? I don't know. That would be an interesting question. But let's see if we can make an adapter now that we do have a 9-volt power supply and see if we can steal some parts from this and get ourselves a working power supply to charge these. And I'm going to have to put real oscilloscope as tops on my list of things to buy, I think. All right, so let's get some stuff together for that. I have done the power supply here. I'm going to steal the cable from it because I don't have one that size, at least not readily accessible. I'll strip that off. Oh, that's a great job. And I'm going to put it on one of these things. Let me just find a screwdriver for that before I go hunting for it. There we go. These connectors are quite convenient for this purpose. Of this purpose being doing something quick and dirty to make something work. I don't find that they're reliable. Oops, got a crimping on a stripper. Yeah, I was going to say I don't find that they're reliable for other purposes. So let's just remind ourselves, these are all done. These are labeled with the assumption that it's center positive, but we'll check before we plug it into anything. But I will, just to make sure that I know which wire is which, get us onto continuity here and figure out which is negative. And as usual, they mark the positive wire. I mean, it looks a bit like a minus, but that's sort of the usual approach to these things. It would be better to tin these first, but the soldering iron is not hot. If this does work, I will probably find myself a 9-volt power supply with the right size barrel jack at the thrift store at some point. Okay, so there we go. So let's plug this in here. There may not be any power on it now. The problem, I will put it actually on the cheap USB power supply for a moment, because the better one shuts off if it doesn't see any load. So what we want to see is we want to see center positive. So we're on AC volts, DC volts over here in the corner. Okay. So you have to wake up this power bank too. Let's see. Yeah, so there we see, it's backwards of course, 9 volts. And if we do it here, we should see the same thing, 9 volts. Okay, so we have power. Let's plug it in here, and let's see what happens. And voila, it's charging. So that's a successful repair to the extent, and this one to the extent that it could be called a repair of the charger stand for these two things. The problem with it was that this is the incorrect power supply. I don't actually think that that ripple I saw in it is a suggestion that there's something wrong, although I've got to say it's going straight in the garbage. I'm not using it for anything now that I've detected something problematic. I will note that this will not charge, right, because it doesn't have the battery pack through there, but they charge we have a charging solution, and I'll be on my lookout for an appropriately sized power supply to plug into this. So 9 volt, center positive, and with the appropriate sized cable. I doubt I'll have to look that hard for that. Now, hopefully you've enjoyed this little video, and it just shows you that when you see stuff in the thrift store or whatnot, do not assume that the power supply that you get with the, or see with the device, is in fact the correct one, because that one was not. Anyway, thanks for watching my little video. I'm going to save the cable from this power supply, but the rest of it is going in the trash. I find these power supply wires very useful. I don't have much stranded wire, so I find it really useful to salvage any of this stuff that I find. So I hope you enjoyed my little repair video, which isn't really much of a repair. I'll look forward to getting these fully working once I've got the new batteries for both radios. Thanks for watching.